I just watched a comedy thing. This is not going to be my discussion about Louis C.K. yet, about in the whole philosophy of humor or anything like that, which I will be doing soon. But this is I wanted to touch on a couple points that he had in his comedy act. In his comedy act, let me look at two titles. In Louis C.K.'s comedy act, he talked about a few things that I want to discuss. It has to do with stimuli in human society and human life. He was mostly talking about how there's way too many stimuli as a child gets born and is growing up. There's too much stimuli in the child's world and in the human's world, which causes a person to be dysfunctional. One thing he discussed, but one thing I want to discuss first is he was talking about how people complain about things that are, that are not that important to complain about. He was talking about how somebody was complaining about how they had a 40-minute delay, or was sitting on the airway in an airplane for 40 minutes, and was quite pissed about this. And he was kind of, making fun of this person for saying such things, and he was saying, what happened after this? Did you happen to fly impossibly into the clouds and into the air? Did you happen to fly? And then he talked about how, flying is such an amazing thing, and he talked about how the Wright brothers would probably kick us in the dick if we complained about being delayed and sitting on the airway in a plane for 40 minutes, and how it's just the miracle of flying is such a miracle in itself, and that we should be grateful for that. I mean, he didn't say that we should be grateful for that. He just said it's a stupid thing to be pissed about waiting for 40 minutes for something that would miraculously happen. This I won't totally agree with. And this, I think, is from too much stimuli. And another thing he said in his act, it's called Louis C.K. Hilarious. He talked about how he doesn't let his kids watch television because it's like a big thing of vibrant colors yapping in their face. And he talks about how he doesn't feed them a ton of junk food. And he talks about how people, make them watch TV all day. And then he said, well, if you let your kids watch TV, go behind them with the remote quietly. Make sure that if they don't know you're there, turn off the TV, and then they will freak out. They will go nuts because they're dependent on that, and they want that back because it was such a large amount of stimulus for them that nothing really compares. And he said that if they were to watch TV for all day for 2 days, and then they would go out to see a beautiful day, and he's like, this beautiful day is shit. This is nothing compared to TV. So this TV is a large amount of stimuli, and you have this beautiful day, which is nothing to them. So I want to relate the whole thing about the 40-minute delay on the plane up to stimuli also, because I think when we have too much stimuli, when there's too much stimulus, too many things that stimulate our brain, which means, like, he also talked about pumping caffeine, sugar, MSG, and all this stuff into kids' bodies. That's a lot of stimulus for their bodies who are developing, and that can cause a state of dependence on that, and that can, because of that amount of stimulus on the brain, that creates problems, and it creates dysfunction, because if they are reliant on that for so long, then they can't appreciate the things that are, regular, and they also cannot be. And he also talked about it, how people feed their kids fries from McDonald's and then give them an apple, and it tastes like paper to them. And how if he gave his kids an apple, they would be like, "Oh, thank you, I like apples." he was just talking about how if you have an amount of stimulus, then a high amount of stimulus, then your amount has just hit the highest amount, and there's nothing that will compare, and then that means that there will be a lack of appreciation in that person's life for most of their life. And I want to relate that to the things I've been talking about that's relating to antinatalism. And I think that because we have states of consciousness retreat, consciousness retreat meaning, not not using Epicurus, not using Nahon, not using Proust, not making consciousness growth at all. That means, you're watching TV all the time, being on your phone all the time, not being healthy to your mind and your consciousness and your body. This is a state of consciousness retreat. So my thoughts are that if you have this, then you are going to be more subject to pain because you'll have more things to be lacking of. Because if early in life you have all these things that you have, this means that there's more for you to be deprived of. If you have more things that you are aware of, there's more for you to be deprived of. If there's more things that you love and you are into, then there's more for you to be deprived of. And that's what I want to just kind of end with here. That I think a lot of people talk about deprivation and suffering is because common society right now causes their children to they create a lot of stimulus in their children's life, which means they have them watch TV, they let them watch TV all the time. They feed them with all these bad foods, and give them all these things which create a lot of stimuli in their brain and their mind. That means they're having a lot of things that they really enjoy, and that pretty much hits the top of that amount that you can have. And then that means that if you have this much, you are left with more that you can be deprived of. Where in the converse situation, if you did not have all that stimuli when you were young and didn't become dependent on that, you would just be appreciative of a beautiful day, appreciative of apples, and appreciative of small things, and you would just only have like this much of stimulus when you're young. And then maybe as you get older, you can take some more of those things, but then you won't be dependent on them because your brain is not developing, all that stuff. So I think if early in life, if you kind of have your children sort of, if early in life you decrease the amount of stimuli, then there's less for them to be dependent on, and there's less for them to be deprived of, because if they learn what's needed, which is that this much is needed, this much is not needed. If they learn that this much is needed and that's all, then there's less for them to be deprived of, because then there's this much of stimuli that they don't have to worry about being deprived of. Does this make sense at all? My tongue is twitching again, so I apologize for that. But does this make sense that if you grow up having, knowing about less things and having less stimuli in your mind, then you become dependent on less things, and you have less to be deprived of. I mean, Eric Cartman in the South Park commercial, Medicinal Fried Chicken, he loves fried chicken, and then fried chicken was taken away because of new laws. And this is a dumb example, but because of new laws, that was taken away from his town, from his state. So he was dependent on that, and there was more for him to be deprived of because he was dependent on the fried chicken, where they had apples, if he was just, fine with apples all the time, was living on apples all the time, then if apples went out, he'd probably deal with it better anyway. But this is a bad example, but I'm just trying to get this out. Louis C.K. kind of gave me these thoughts here. Well, he's kind of helping me further develop my thoughts. So, if you have any questions, I'm not saying that this is a direct offense against antinatalism. This is just some more thoughts that are helping my case here. But let me know what you think if you have any thoughts.